All right, so we're going to go through some examples and you guys are going to follow along with this video and we're going to look at graphing lines. And so we have two forms that we graph lines in. We have slope-intercept form and standard form. We're going to start with slope-intercept form and you're going to go through the examples with us and complete the U-tries and you will have time to practice on your own. And this is just like how we would do it in class. So first for slope-intercept form, we have y equals mx plus b. And so our m is our slope, and that's always the number in front of x. Our b is our y-intercept, and those are the two numbers that we're going to use. So in slope-intercept form, we always begin with our b, so begin with b, by plotting a point on the y-axis at the value of b. Okay, so we plot a point on the y-axis, and the y-axis is the vertical one. So we start with a point there. Once we have that point on our y-axis, we want to move according to our m, and m is our slope. And when we move according to m, we use rise over run. I'm just going to shift this down so we can see. And our rise is up and down, and our run is left or right. And so we're going to go through some examples together. Once we have those 2 points, we can use our slope again from that new point and keep going until we have a few points and we can accurately draw our line. So I'm going to go through this first example here. It says graph the linear equation. So we have y equals negative 2x plus 5. So I'm going to underline my slope. And my slope is negative 2 because I know that's by my x. So that's my m. This is my m. And so I want to begin with b. And so for our b, we're going to begin at positive 5 on our y-axis. Okay, so positive 5, if this is our origin, we're going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to put a point at positive 5 on the y-axis. That's our b, that's our y-intercept. Once we have our b, I'm going to use my slope and I'm going to count my rise and my run. Now my rise and my run is a fraction, but I only have negative 2. So if that happens, if we want to make negative 2 into a fraction, we just put it over 1. So my rise is negative 2, which means I'm going to go down 2. And my run is a positive 1, so I'm going to go to the right 1. So from my blue point, I'm going to go down 2, and I'm going to go to the right 1, and I'm going to put another point right there. And I want to do it again because I have room, and the more points I have, the more accurate my line will be. So then from this new point, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to go over to the right 1. I'm going to put a point there. I'm going to do another one just for good measure. So from this point, I go down 2, 1, 2, then over 1. So right there. So I have these dots, and before I draw my line, I just want to double check. My slope is negative, so my line should be decreasing. And if I look, my points are going down as I go from left to right, so that makes sense. So I'm going to draw a line through my points, and you guys are going to use a ruler. So I'm going to start here, and I draw my line, and I'm going to extend it through my whole graph. And then I do just want to make sure I put arrows on my ends because the line will go on forever. So that is my line. That's the graph for y equals negative 2x plus 5. So what you're going to do now is you're going to pause the video and you're going to do the U-try right below it. So right below we have y equals negative 3/4 x minus 2. So begin with your b, start at your b, and move with m. And then after we resume the video, you can check your answer. All right, so you tried it, and I'm going to do it quickly here. So our b is -2, so we're going to begin at -2 on our y-axis. So -2 is down here, because if 0, 0 is in the middle and it's negative, we want to go down 2. So that's our b, that's our y-intercept. Then our slope is -3/4. And so when we have a negative fraction, we can put the negative to either number, but not both. And so what we want to do, we want to make it like a -3 over a +4. And so the -3 is our rise and the 4 is our run. So if our 3 is negative, we're going to go down, and the 4 is positive, we're going to go to the right. The reason we don't want to make them both negative is if I go down into the left, my line would end up being an increasing line, which is not what I want. So I'll show you. So we have this, we're going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and I can go to the right 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a point right there. So I have my beginning point and I used my slope. If I wanted to do another point, I ran out of room here, so I can work backwards. So I could go up 3 and to the left 4, and I'm back here, so I can go up 3 and to the left 4 again, and do another point here. So when I connect my dots, I end up getting a decreasing line with a slope of -3/4 going through the y-axis at -2, since that is my y-intercept. And I'm going to add little arrows onto the end. So we're going to go back up and do the other example, and then you guys are going to do the u-try. This example is a little different, and we want to go through this for a reason. So if you notice, it doesn't start with y equals, it's equal to y. So the y value is still by itself, which is good. It's just out of order, and that's okay. So I'm going to still do the same thing. I'm going to underline my m, I'm going to circle my b. So with my m, it's always in front of my x, and so looking here, my m is 2/3 because it's in front of x. And then I notice I don't have a b value. And so what that means is my b value is actually 0. So my b equals 0. So what I want to do is I actually want to begin at the origin, because nothing is being added on after the x or even in front of the x. So I want to put a point at the origin, and then I can use my slope. So I start at 0, 0 because my b value was 0. And now using my slope, we have a slope of 2/3. And so my rise is 2 and my run is 3. So from my point, I'm going to rise a +2 and I'm going to run a +3. So I have a point right here. And I'm going to try to do it again. If I rise 2 and I run 1, 2, and I'm just cut off, I feel like I'm close enough that I could put a point there. If you don't feel confident, if we're too far off, that's fine. And we have our points that we can draw our line. So looking at these, my points are increasing, and I double check my slope is positive, so that makes sense. So I'm going to go and get my line, and I can extend it through the whole graph. And then I can add arrows on the end. And it's super important to make sure that we use our ruler when we go through the center of these points. Okay, so we're going to look at the last u-try. You guys are going to do this one, and then the video will get paused, and then we'll resume it, and you can check your work. All right, so our y-intercept is -3, and so we start there. Our slope is 5, which means it is a slope of 5 over 1. So we're going to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. And then 1, 2, 3, I'm kind of off the graph. So I'm only going to use 2 points, and we can connect our dots. I'm going to connect this one here, and we can extend it through. And I'm going to add arrows. And then looking at this, my line is increasing, which is good because my slope is positive, so it is going up as I had to go from left to right. So now you guys get to practice on your own.